Hey, I'm Michael.
And I'm Stephanie.
And this is Entrepreneurs Next Door,
A podcast about parenthood, relationships, and entrepreneurship.
Where each week we share our journey on how we navigate life as an entrepreneur family.
Hey, guys.
Hey, we're back for another episode here. Episode number 5 now.
Yes.
And we're going to title this episode, Everything About COVID and what we went through.
The struggle.
Yeah, we're going to share our story and what we went through, both business, relationship-wise, and I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, this came up because the other day you had shown me, I think Facebook or the phone now gives you like a reminder with like pictures, like, hey, remember, this picture at this time ago? And it was so funny because it showed you a picture of you when we were in COVID and you had shaved your hair off.
Yeah, it's actually Google Photos does that
Google
now.
Photos, yeah.
Yeah, Google Photos. And yeah, I had completely shaved. I don't know why I did that. I think it was just like...
just a situation. I think because it was just such a...
Yeah, I think I was just trying to change my hairstyle. And so...
Oh, yeah, that too.
It was like the perfect time because we were in quarantine. We weren't going to see anyone for a while.
Yeah.
So I was just like, let's just do it.
Let's just do it. And you shaved it all off. And you just looked so... It looked funny because you had shaved your head. And then you can also see how, like, stressed you were because, again, it was, like, during COVID. And I feel like that time was so hectic for us.
Yeah.
And I think especially for you because you were going through, like, a rough time because everything had shut down. And that includes, like, the martial arts business. And then you had your fitness gym. And that had to close down. So you're going through it rough.
Yeah, so business-wise... it's pretty tough. So martial arts, of course, it's an in-person business. Mm-hmm. And shout out again to Warrior Martial Arts, right?
Yes, to Warrior Martial Arts.
So the Warrior Martial Arts is the one that sponsors
all our videos.
This podcast, yeah. And so, so Warrior Martial Arts here in Dunellen, New Jersey, and it's an in-person business with kids, right? So, of course, COVID shut all of that down, and we had to start teaching classes virtually, right? So we started doing the whole Zoom thing, literally teaching hundreds of kids on Zoom all at once in our basement. It
was crazy.
It was crazy, yeah. Yeah, so that was the kind of like the beginning of it, like the eye-opening moment of like, wow, this is real. This is about to get tough. They weren't allowing people back into the businesses. We didn't even go into the school for a while.
No,
at
we
least
didn't.
A month or two.
Yeah. And then you had your fitness gym. You had that was separate because now it's together. Yeah. But before you had your own fitness gym.
Yeah. So basically we had the martial arts school and the kickboxing program in one building, and we were doing really good. Like we were. I would say like on the rise, like on the roller coaster, we were like mid, like reaching the peak. And COVID caught us in that right about there. To reach the peak. It was going really well. And it was around this time, right? So like April,
Summer,
May.
Yeah. It was around this time.
Yeah. March, April. So it was getting nice. We had great sign-ups. It was going really good. And then boom, right before we reached our peak, COVID hit. And so since it caught us in that rise, and we weren't at that peak yet. We weren't steady in that new gym and our new business. We had to shut it down. Yeah. And so
it was a rough. I just remember how like stressed you were because you didn't want to let it go because we were doing so good. But you kind of had to make that hard decision, and it really affected you.
Yeah. So we were also teaching fitness outdoors online. Yeah, online first, and then outdoors, and then eventually we just decided it was time to let it go so that we could at least stay afloat with the martial arts. So that kind of helped us, and it was a kind of a good transition. It wasn't too bad to let it go, but we had to let it go, and so business wise. It was
rough, and not only that, but Sophie was only a couple months old.
Yeah.
And we just had, so we were learning to be parents, and I was, right after a woman gives birth, you go through all this hormonal changes, and so I was going through stuff too, and it was just a rough time.
Yeah, so with Sophia,
She was how many? She was
couple months, October,
like 7 months old.
March, yeah, 5, 6,
Yeah,
6, 7 months.
Okay.
So I mean, now we see that lack of socialization
it did affect her,
has
definitely, yeah.
affected her, yeah.
Because we couldn't, you have play dates, and then there's like these gyms that you can go to for babies, and Sophie was not able to experience any of that or any other contact with like other babies to socialize.
Yeah.
So now Sophie is a lot more shy. She's very like hesitant if she sees other kids, and that's all because we just started taking her out.
Yeah. I mean, we were blessed to be able to spend so much time with her, right? Yeah. So I think we had
that helped
good bonding moment with her during that time. But yeah, ultimately I think it did affect her a little bit socially. She's still very, very much attached to us.
Yes, very attached to us.
And then relationship wise, we learned a lot. I feel like COVID just forced everyone in general to have to figure everything out, right?
Yeah, because you're stuck with that because before COVID, you would go to work and you do your daily errands, and then you come home to your family, pick up the kids from daycare, get out of work, and so you're not as much that time as people would want with their families. But COVID just suddenly, like, we're all in the same house, we're all forced to be together all the time
together, and it's tough. And I've seen relationships
that struggled during that time.
Yeah, it really struggled. And with us, in the beginning it was tough because we also had just met like a year
so we were,
and a half ago or something, right?
It was like 2 years that we had been together. We're dealing with, our baby, then the business, which was I think that the business also kind of not affected our relationship, but it was a lot of like that, a lot of stress from the business that sometimes, we're just there. So we're kind of letting it out on each other. And so it was hard, but I feel like we did learn a lot about each other during that time. Cause when you go through a rough time, that's the best time to really.
Yeah. I know me personally, like I was going through it because, as a business owner, the business is like your kid too, right? It's like a lot of people say like my business is my baby, right? It's like you nurture it, you grow it, you build with it, right? It's like you go through everything with your business, and to see it like just totally shut down and not be able to do anything about it was the toughest part, right? Because in like, for example, in a recession, right? Like right now they're saying we're going through recession, or we're about to go into a recession. In 2008, there was a recession. So in those periods of times, right, it's not like the government shut your business down. You could still do something about it and try to fight back, right? With COVID, it was like, you can't do anything. Yeah. You can't go into your gym. You can't. So, I tried my best. I was in the basement doing hundreds and hundreds of sales calls, trying to sign people up online,
doing those online classes.
But ultimately it took a big toll out of me. It was really difficult. And so emotionally I was going through it, to the point I was like depressed at one point. It was like bad.
I had never, again, we had just met. And so for me, it was kind of like an eye opener to see how much you really did care about your business. And me coming from like not knowing how important a business could be to someone, I really saw how much that affected you, and got to see that side of you, and like I feel like I appreciated you a little bit more on like how hardworking you are and how like you have to make these difficult decisions for your family.
Right? And that's really where I was getting to. I saw kind of you were that support system for me, right? Like you were that. I realized like, wow, I could depend on this person. Like she's going to be there for me. Right. That was like the lowest of lows, right?
Yeah.
Like for both of us. And so to know that we had each other's back, I feel like that has helped us. And we looked back at that couple of days or today. We were like, wow, like, we went through it. We got through it, learned a lot about each other. And I think we're stronger for it.
Because I was going through a hard time, but seeing you at your lowest and then seeing how important this was to you and for our family made me, what my thought process was like, I need to put right now like my feelings aside because I need to support him because this is going to support our family too.
Right.
And so I put my feelings aside and I just dedicated in supporting you, being there for you, and making sure that like in the house there was somewhat of like of a positive environment, even though like everything wasn't so positive. But I had to put that aside. And even now in our marriage, I feel like that we work that way. We're very like, what's it called? We like to help one another. You're like, when I'm going through a hard time or I'm having rough days, you're always there, like doing something, like an act of service. That's what I meant to say. Acts of service that will make me feel better, right? And I feel like that all came from that time in COVID, because we were constantly doing little acts of service for each other, even though we were like in the same house.
Yeah.
But I feel like that is what helped us get through it. Those little acts of service towards each other.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, coming from, like, I was just thinking, coming from like being completely single, independent on your own to a relationship, to a marriage, to marriage with kids, is like, it's a big thing. And it was like for us, you know, we said in our first episode, right, like love at first sight. So we got into it quick because we wanted to, not because we had to or anything, right? So we got into this quick, got into the marriage and the kids. And so we had to learn all of this quick. So I think COVID kind of helped boost that learning curve, right? Because we were, you know, stuck at home.
And all of our sides were coming out, like the good, the ugly, like, so we really got to know, you know, I got to know the side of you where you were like depressed. I like, you know, you were down, you were sad, and then, you know, you would get frustrated because obviously that is frustrating to have to let something go that you care so much. And then here you are also dealing with all my woman hormonal changes and also getting, you know, sad and then like frustrated because we couldn't do anything with Sophie. And then it's like we're doing all of this to be able to give Sophie a better future. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I had posted it when COVID ended, is like COVID was like good and bad, right? Like, you know, the tons of bad, of course. We ended up losing family members and there was a lot of, you know, ugly to it. But on the positive side, because we always say like, try to find the positive in everything. You know, we got to learn more about each other. We got to bond so much with Sophia. Like, she's our ride or die. You know?
She's another
like
one.
she went through it with us. And so, you know, I think there's a lot of positive that came out of it as well. Like, I got to learn, or the thing business wise that it did for me is it just it helped me reset a lot of things that I needed to reset in the first place, right? So a couple of the strategies that I started with in fitness, kind of like a low end offer and different things that I did with the fitness business, COVID shutting us down helped me like say, well, that wasn't working anyways. So good thing, you know, we were forced to get rid of it. And when we started back up again, you know, things were a lot better.
Yeah, that is
so
true.
the fitness program that we have now, I love it. And
it's a
much
great
more,
program.
less stress than I was when I owned, you know, the gym.
Yeah. That's why, I think that's why for everyone, COVID will always be that time where you look back and you think like, okay, what don't we want in our lives anymore? You know, what is going to stick with us? What is not going to stick with us, and what we're going to learn from it. And so I know COVID was really hard for everyone. Like, we lost family members, but for me, it was a time of like that, of like just learning and getting better at life, getting better with each other. And yeah, it was a big pivotal moment, but I think it worked out at the end, right? Yes, we're still here.
And I think now, it's also a big pivotal moment. I think that can be our next episode. Maybe like we're talking about how we're kind of just getting over that initial, what's it called? Initial baby phase or kid phase, right? Because we have Mikey is about to turn 1 in August in a couple months.
Yeah.
Sophia is 3. So once Mikey starts walking and talking and gets a little bit easier once they're up and running. So I think we're about to go in a new pivotal moment where we get to kind of go back to work and get back to a more steady routine, not having to wake up at midnight, you know, with the baby, with the right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good time. Like I'm starting to kind of feel like myself again a little bit more. You know, where we won't have to, like you said, the kids are growing up. It does get easier because before we had to with Mikey, Sophie was like at that perfect age where she was like a little bit more independent and things are easier. And then we decided to have Mikey. So I feel like I've just been pregnant for so long, like 4 years now, 3 years. Sophie's about to be 4. But yeah, I'm starting to finally feel like myself, and I feel like it's going to get good for us, and we're going to be able to get over that baby phase and go into this new phase of our lives and just kind of keep learning as we go. Because, again, everything was so rushed with us in a good way. But I'm excited just to see how the next phase in our lives go, and COVID will forever be in our minds.
Yeah. So I think we wrap it up with that. Yeah. Right? I think that was a good one. So, we want to also hear from you guys and your feedback. And so comment below, how did COVID affect your family? What did you learn? How did you get through it? And lessons and stuff. Yeah,
lessons learned from COVID.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you guys. You can definitely comment on YouTube, and this podcast will be also on Spotify. Make sure you like, subscribe, and all that good stuff.
Yes.
And we will see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.
Take care, guys.